Hi, my name's Dale Henry, and welcome to Principles of Management. You're going to find out that this course is a little bit different than a lot of courses that you've taken because we're going to break down management into some pieces. And really and truly, I'd like for you to start thinking, when we talk about management, of interacting the word management and leadership. A lot of your book will, of course, cover this subject from the management perspective. But what I'd like for you to do is every time you hear that word, just in your mind, start thinking about leadership. Also, we're going to be looking at how we can infuse this course with an entrepreneurial spirit. So as we go through the class and as you go to the units in this asynchronous class, you'll notice that the lectures and the reading have some similarities, but after all, this is a bachelor's program. Some of the reading and some of the assignments will come as your responsibility. The lecture is just here to help you pinpoint what I think are the more important principles of what we're talking about. Well, my name is Dale Henry, and I am a speaker and a professor. I travel around the country. I work for everybody from Walmart to Harvard. And I do somewhere around 150 days a year lecturing to people like 3M, Walmart. Well, here's the thing. If you've ever heard of a company, I've probably stood in front of them and did a presentation. So let's get right into our lecture, and let's have a little fun with management over the next 8 units. And welcome to Unit 1. I got married 38 years ago. Now that seems like a long time. Trust me, it's just a blink. But when I married my wife, I found out that we had a lot of things that were in common and a lot of things that weren't, just as the people you work with in your organization. One of the things that I really like to do is I like to go camping. I've always been a big camper. My family was big campers. And when I got married to Deborah, I mentioned the fact that I like to camp. And she sort of smiled and said, "You mean like in a tent?" And I said, "Yes." She said, I don't camp. So what we ended up doing was coming to a compromise. And the compromise was that we bought a 29-foot travel trailer with microwave and color television. That, to Deborah, is roughing it. So we started out our young family constantly traveling, constantly camping. So after I had received my master's degree from the University of Tennessee, and we'd been married a while, Deborah thought it might be good for me to think about my PhD. So I told Deb, that sounds great. I applied to a couple colleges, finally settled in on the University of Southern Mississippi. And when I picked the school, I told Deb, I said, I need to run down over a weekend, find us an apartment where we could stay and where Deb and the girls and I could live while I was working on my PhD. So she said, "You know how I really don't do camping?" And I said, "Well, yeah." She said, "Well, I don't do apartments." And I go, "Honey, we can't buy a house for the short amount of time that we're going to be down there going to school." And she said, but we have a travel trailer. Now, you got to love that kind of spirit. And I said, "Great, now let's just do that. Let's just pull down the travel trailer. Hey, we'll stay in a campground. It'll be an adventure for our family as well as an opportunity for me to finish my degree." So that's what we decided to do. And one Saturday, we loaded up the travel trailer behind the dually truck, and off we went to the University of Southern Mississippi down in Hattiesburg. Now, you're going to understand this a little bit better as the course unfolds, but I'm just a guy. And as guys go, I'm not what you'd call a real big planner. So as I'm driving down to the coast to go to school, somewhere probably 3 exits away from Hattiesburg, it hits me that I don't even know if they got campgrounds down here. So I stopped at a gas station, and they said yes, they did. And The guy was nice enough to give me the sheet out of the yellow pages, and I got back in the truck, and Deb said, "Have you picked out a place in Hattiesburg for us to stay?" And I said, "Well, no, but I have a list of the ones that are available," and of course, that's all about timing. And she started picking out the ones that she wanted to go to. Now, I discovered something that weekend that, to be honest with you, I did not know. They were building a huge polymer science department down at the University of Southern Mississippi. And they had a tremendous influx of construction workers. Now, when construction workers enter a town, they don't stay in hotels either. Yeah, they stay in campgrounds. So there was no openings in the first campground. There was no openings in the second, nor in the only other one there was in that town. And the third guy told me, as I asked him if he had any open places for my camper, "You don't have a problem." Now, in management, you're going to hear that a lot, usually from people that manage you. "You don't have a problem." Well, trust me, if you have a problem, you have a problem. It's a problem to you. It's a problem to your people. So, yeah, I had a problem. The problem was I didn't have a place to stay. So right after he said that, "You don't have a problem," here's what he said. There's a trailer park right next to campus. Now, I'm from the South, obviously. You've noticed that in my Southern accent. And there's a huge difference between campgrounds and trailer parks. If you don't know them, let me tell you what they are. Campgrounds are all about fun. They're about families. They're about bringing your camper. People will actually, when they see you pull in, will leave their campsite. They will give you direction. They will back you in. They will do everything they can to make you comfortable. They'll even help you hook up your sewer line. That's not a trailer park. We pulled in the trailer park, and this place was probably originally 25 acres of property. Probably had trees and some vegetation, but they scraped every living thing off of it and put in concrete slabs. They parked me on a 24 by 60 concrete slab. I looked like I was parked on the runway of an airport. Sunday afternoon, I started setting up the camper, pulling out the awning, hanging up the hooty-hoo lights. I couldn't help but think that my neighbors were thinking gypsies were moving in. And I noticed a kind of absence of small children in the campground. But Monday morning, I left for my first class and my adventure in getting my PhD. I came home that night only to get those questions that really there are no answers to. Deborah looked at me and said, "You don't know what happens when you leave, do you?" Obviously not, I'm gone. I would realize all through life, these are what I call Debisms. Debisms are great things. They help me understand concepts and how to deal with other people. For example, once on a trip to Walmart, Deb called me and said, "Did you remember your cell phone?" Obviously, I'm talking on the cell phone, but this is too good to let go. And I said, "Yeah, I think I really did. I think I left it on the counter." And she said, "How am I going to tell you what I need at the Walmart?" And I said, "Well, let's just use this telepathic thing that we've got going on right now," which didn't work out real well. The other one, other great Debism that I love is the one where I came in late at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, used my cell phone to find the bed, took off my clothes, dropped them at the foot of the bed, to have Deborah wake up at about 3.5 hours later at 6 o'clock in the morning, turning on every light in the bedroom, looking at the foot of the bed and saying, "Are these your clothes?" Since I'm the only man that lives there, I guess the answer was yes. When I told her that if they weren't my clothes, we were going to have a talk when I did wake up. But Debisms are a way of, you can call those anybodyisms, ways that people communicate that say to you, "You don't have a problem." That's a Debism. Well, here I am, and I come in. You don't know what happens when you. I know I don't know what happens. I wasn't here. So when you leave, this camper gets to 120 degrees. I said, "Well, just turn on the air conditioner." She said, "That's with the air conditioner." So my wife is very resourceful, so she bought a swimming pool. We were the envy of the trailer park, and So the next weekend, I'm sitting typing a paper, and I realize what Deborah's talking about. It does. It gets hot. So I decided to go for a swim. I put on my trunks. I grabbed a towel. I went outside on our concrete patio. I laid down in the pool. Now, you have to understand, my head was on one end, feet off the other. We're not talking about a big pool here. This is a small blow-up, you know. And I have to tell you, it was a good place. Have you ever been to a good place? I mean, you feel good. Everything seems to be going well. And nobody's telling you it isn't. And after about 15 minutes, I felt myself going to sleep. And with one kind of eye, I sensed that someone was over me. And I opened one of my eyes, and it was Leanne, my oldest daughter. She had her hands on her hips. Obviously, she'd been watching her mother for some time. She looked down at me, and this is what she said. "Wouldn't be in that pool if I was you." Now, I'm sure you're aware that they were sitting there when I passed them on the patio. They watched me get into the swimming pool, and I've been laying in this pool for 15 minutes. But I'm also a little bit of asleep, and I'm not sure that I heard what she said. And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, Daddy, I wouldn't be in that pool if I was you." And I said, "Why not?" She said, well, Lauren pooped in it about 30 minutes ago. Now, the thing you need to know about management is that people will watch you do stuff. They'll see you go through the whole motion of management, and then somewhere near the end, right before you get ready to crash and burn, they'll tell you you shouldn't be in that poopy pool. Now, I'd already been in this pool for 30 minutes. I don't think it's possible to get any pore of my skin any more poopy than it was already. So the thought in my mind was, why get out now? So I just smiled and leaned back. And after about 20 minutes of sitting at the table with her sister and her mother, both my girls looked at my wife and said, "Well, can we go ahead and get in too?" Now, here's the first principle that you need to learn about leadership and management. And it's a really good place to start in our study, as well as a good place for you to understand. Number one, welcome to the poopy pool. See, management is all about getting into things that we really have no clue what we're getting into, only to watch other people watch us get into these things, never say a word. But you know what? If we make management and leadership look good, other people want to get in the poopy pool with us. In this course, we're going to identify what management really is. Management is the art and the ability to really lead others. Now, lots of folks will tell you that it's the art of taking certain resources and certain people, making sure that the resources and people meet the mission of the organization. That's a great definition. But after years of teaching and study, I found out that if you just take certain individuals in an organization and teach them certain things, take certain resources and put them in the position to be of readiness, what you still have to do is be involved. Someone will wait on you to make a decision. Someone will wait on you to tell them what to do. That's management. But where I want to take us is that next step to managerial leadership. Now, managerial leadership says this: I make sure that all of my people that work with me, around me, and for me become better than me. Not as good as, but better than. See, when we take our people and we give them resources, we give them training, and we supply them with everything they possibly need, the one thing they do not need is us. And it allows us to better lead and better manage. Because there's going to be a point in time, ladies and gentlemen, that you are not there. And if you are not there, nothing gets done. Because they are standing in the ready to wait on what you want them to do. Managerial leadership says we supply all of our people with what they need, so that when that time comes that they need to make decisions, they feel good about making them. with one small caveat, and this is the hardest thing for most managers to understand. You have to enable your people to make mistakes. You have to enable your folks to mess up, because only then will they really learn how to lead themselves. We don't learn through the things we do well. As so many people love to say, practice makes perfect. It does not. Practice makes permanent. Only the practice of perfection makes perfect. So in this first unit, let's jump right in with helping you understand some ways that I can empower you to lead others through some internal memory devices that I want you to start thinking about. Matter of fact, this week, what I want you to do is practice this one very important acrostic, and it's be soft. S-O-F-T. The soft method of management and leadership is indeed very powerful, and I have used it and I have taught it to a lot of organizations. And I find that once people grasp the principles of it, they become better leaders and managers. But what I want you to do this week is really kind of apply this. Because see, this course is all about application. It's all about taking the stuff that you're learning, stuff you're learning from me on the video, and actually applying it to your management and leadership skills. And I can hear some of you right now. Well, Dr. Henry, I'm really not in a management position right now. It's time you start thinking about it. And it's time you start acting like you are. See, no one is going to make you a manager if you do not act like you can manage and lead. So take this simple principle that I'm getting ready to teach you in this unit and start applying it this coming week. As a matter of fact, we'll be talking about this very issue in some assignments that you'll be doing in this unit. Soft. It's an acrostic. S stands for smile. Smile. It's one of the simplest things we can do. See, if you're in a room of 1,000 people, there's only one face you can't see. It's yours. You can't see your own face. You can only see what others see. Now, I bet a lot of you probably come to work in a good mood. Probably a big smile on your face. You walking from your car, it's been a great weekend maybe. You just been listening to some real good tunes on the radio. Maybe you had the top down. And you come into work and you are ready to rock and roll. Now, here's the problem. There's a committee where you work. And they see you coming in and they go, look, here comes a happy one. See, people don't want you to be happy. And a lot of that confuses people. See, happy people, according to a USA Today poll, they interviewed 1,000 people and asked this question. Happy people, are they more or less effective than unhappy people? And I think you know the answer. Happy people are more effective. Well, Dale, if happy people are more effective, then why aren't all of us happy? Yeah, that seems like the answer. But see, unhappy people have discovered that if you're unhappy and grumpy, people leave you alone. Basically, you don't have to do much at all. See, happy people get stuff done. Happy people become managers. Happy people become leaders. 100 of the most successful people in this country were interviewed and asked this question. Are you happy because you're successful, or are you successful because you're happy? And without exception, all 100 of these very successful people said, I am successful because I'm happy. See, happy will get you to success, but success will never get you to happy. All you have to do is pick up any USA Today and see anybody who has just signed a contract for several $1 million, only to see them 6 months later being arrested for something they shouldn't be doing by shoving something they shouldn't have shoved up their nose, trying to find happiness. So S stands for smile. So if those people that see you happy don't want you to be happy, why are they messing with you? Because you see, they don't want you to share your happiness. They just want you to be miserable like they are, because misery, of course, loves company. How many of you have ever picked up a telephone? You're talking to someone on the phone and you get the sense that they are smiling. See, you can hear a smile on the telephone, which sounds kind of weird to me, but it's the absolute truth. It's the way we talk. It's the way our inflection is. We know that they are smiling. If you walk into my company and you walk into the office where my office manager works, you'll see a small mirror, and over it a embroidered little piece of a sampler, we call it in the South. My mother did this a number of years ago for me. And right above that mirror it says this: "Our customers hear what you see." Smiling is one of the most powerful things that we can do. Now, I'm not talking about that Forrest Gump, you look like you just ate a cat chaser cat smile. I'm talking about being genuinely happy, letting people know that you enjoy what you do. Too often you see people at work, well, I love my job. Well, why don't you tell your face? Because your face is the picture that we all see. You can't see it, but we can. A number of years ago, I was asked for the Marriott Corporation to come and do a presentation. They were opening a brand new property in Salt Lake City. I was there to kind of kick off the opening of this new property, and as I normally do, I was sitting in the lobby of this gorgeous hotel. People walking back and forth. I was pretending I was reading a book, more or less just picking up data that I could use in my presentation. A young man came along, and there was a lady sitting near me on a couch, and he made this statement: "I'm sorry I'm late, but those elevators are just so slow." Now, I don't know if you've been on an elevator lately, but they all kind of move to me. It seems like the same speed. Of course, I have to smile every time I hear somebody say elevator, because I've worked for the Otis Elevator Company before. They're an organization that's in a single level building. I think I would have made it very tall and very small just to show that, yeah, we have faith in our elevators too. But anyway, I sit there for a few minutes, and if you hear one thing, that's just conversation. But several more times I heard people walking by talking about the speed of the elevator in this new property. Got me being curious. So I jumped up, I walked over to the front desk, and there was a young lady standing there. And I said, "Excuse me, are you having some problems with your elevator?" Only to see the eye roll. Oh, those elevators are driving us crazy. Every 5 minutes, somebody comes complaining about the elevator. I thought, wow. Now, I was on the 25th floor of this property. I went over to the elevator. I punched 27. That was the top floor. I went to the very top floor. I got off the elevator. I let the elevator go. I pushed the button again, which called the elevator. I got on the elevator, and I came down. I timed this. I did it twice. Got a pretty consistent time. Walked across the street where there was an Omni hotel, taller than ours, but I just went to the 27th floor. I got out. I let the elevator go. I hit the button. I called it back. I did that a couple of times. Now, here's the strange thing. The Omni elevator was slower. So I thought, well, there's got to be some correlation here. I went down. I went to the front desk of the Omni, and I said, "Excuse me, are you having problems with your elevator?" Only to have the lady smile at me and say, "No, but the folks next door at the Marriott are having all kinds of trouble with theirs." Great news. Travels fast, doesn't it? So I went back across the street. I went up the elevator, this time stopped at the floor I was staying on, and sat down in one of those chairs right there in the elevator lobby. You know, the one that nobody ever sits in. It's nice, but you get the feeling, why would anybody ever sit here? So I'm sitting in that elevator chair, and just like somebody poking me upside the head, I got the problem. Went back down the elevator to the front desk, different young ladies at that time. I said, "Excuse me, could I speak to your general manager?" She leaned forward and said, "You're not going to complain about the elevators, are you?" I said, "No. I think I know what's wrong with your elevator." She said, you stay right here." The manager came out putting his jacket on. He said, "Oh, man, I understand you work for an elevator company." I said, No, brother. I don't know anything about elevators, but I know what's wrong with yours." And he said, you fix my elevator, you will have made my life. I said, just come with me. We went up to my floor. I got out of the elevator. There's two of those chairs there, and we both sat down in them. And he said, okay, what do I need to know? How do I need to fix the elevator? I said, well, that's very simple. You see, the elevator, there's nothing wrong with it. What's wrong with your elevator is not your elevator. There's no mirrors in your lobby. Mirrors? No mirrors. You see, when you're standing here with nobody to spend time with, time really goes by slow. You know what I'm talking about, ladies. You look at your outfits. Guys, we make sure everything's zipped up, put up, buttoned up. Smile is very important. You see, the smile is there because we can't see our own reflection, so we have to smile for others. Oh, be open. Be open. How can you be open? You be open by getting all the stuff out of between you and other people. How many times you walked into somebody's office, they're sitting behind their desk. You know who's in charge. It's their office. It's their desk. They're in charge. And you feel like they're in charge. See, I stopped doing this a number of years ago when I got to visit the office of Bill Marriott. I walked into his office to see this beautiful office, glass on three sides, gorgeous mahogany desk, 25 feet long, hand-carved from Africa, only to see that desk pushed up against the window and his back to me. I felt like saying, Mr. Marriott, don't you know that you're supposed to turn your desk around so it's pointing at the... And then he said it. He said, Dale, I love the way I have my desk. You see, when you come in my office, I'm always on your side. Pretty great way of looking at the world. You see, instead of having that desk between him and everybody who entered the door, when you came in, you were on the same side of the desk as he was. A great team building idea. Smile. Be open. You work at a counter, get out from behind it. If you work at a desk, get up, move around. Manage by loitering. Lead by loitering. Get out, let your people shake your hand. Smile. Be open. F stands for lean forward. Lean forward is a listening technique that maybe it's because I'm a little ADHD, but developed a number of years ago. Whenever I'm talking to someone, I notice that one foot was always in front of the other. I just tend to put my weight on that foot, which leans me in a tad closer to those I'm listening to. Now, that gives them a little nonverbal signal that they're important to me, but more importantly, it helps me remember that that person is the most important person right now in my life, and I have learned to listen a lot. I also, when I think you're at a meeting, it's important to bring along a notepad. And when people say things and they tell you what they need, make sure you get the importance of that need. Reflect back to them what they said. It's a powerful tool. One of the favorite things I like to say at the end of a meeting is, let's get the deliverables. It keeps from having what I call those Groundhog Day meetings that you just keep on happening and there's no resolution to them. Smile, be open, lean forward, and listen. Last but not least is the T in the SOFT formula. It stands for touch. Now, I'm not talking about walking around the building and patting people on the back and all that. I'm talking about that professional touch that all of us have, the handshake. The handshake is one of the most important things that you will do, yet it is one thing you never think about. You never give it a moment's thought because it's something you do every day. Start thinking about that handshake, thinking about the power of that touch. Make it personal, make it unique, make it different to everyone else's. Think about it. When you give it emphasis, it will become important, and it will become important to others. I'm going to wrap all this up in a real quick story. You see, what I'm talking about here is a lot of what you're reading, for example, like the Hawthorne effect. The Hawthorne effect, as you know, happened because a group of researchers were trying to figure out what would make people have a higher productivity. But what they found out was anything that you do to call attention to those people, it builds their production to a higher level. The things I've just been talking about do the same thing. Smile, be open, lean forward, touch. Make it unique. Now, as I wrap up this lesson, let me tell you the final story, and it'll kind of put wrapping on the package for you. A number of years ago, I was in Washington, D.C., getting ready to eat lunch with a great friend of mine, Chuck Brundage, and I was going to eat at the Palms restaurant, one of my favorite restaurants in D.C. I get to the Palms, I walk in, and you need to know I've only eaten there maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. But when I walked in the room, a gentleman walked up to me and said, "Dr. Henry?" Now, I didn't know this gentleman, and I said, "Well, yes, that's my name." And he goes, "Well, Mr. Brundage called and said you'd be coming." And I started thinking, how did he know who I was? So I said, "Well, how did you figure who I was?" He said, "Well, he described you perfectly." I couldn't help but think, Southern guy, goober, short. Okay, I got it. So I said, "Well, where is Chuck?" He said, "We had a little accident. He's not going to be able to come to lunch today." And he said, just to meet him in his office later on this afternoon. He's okay. It just takes a long time to work a wreck out on the Beltway in D.C. So I said, "Would it be okay if I just sat down at the bar for a minute?" He said, "Certainly. Would you like to eat there?" I said, "No, just want to sit here for a second." He said, "Okay." Now, you don't know me, so you don't know this. I don't like to eat by myself. It's kind of pitiful, actually, if you walk into a place to eat, the person looks at you, "How many for dinner?" "One," and they know you're a loser. Once you go over here and let you sit with the other losers that we have, I just don't like to eat by myself. Food digests better when you're looking at someone. So I sat down at the bar, and this is what I thought. First person walks through that door by themselves, I'm going to ask them to have lunch. I knew Chuck was going to pay for it, so it wasn't no big deal to me. He could just pay for 2 as easy as he could pay for 1. You'll never guess who walked through the door. A guy named Tip O'Neill. For those of you who have a little age on you, like myself, you know that Tip O'Neill used to be Speaker of the House. I walked up to Mr. O'Neill. He was older at the time, sporting a cane. I reached out my hand to shake his hand. He was a big man. He made you come in to shake his. And when I laid my hand on his hand, it was like setting your hand on a shelf. It never moved. And as I looked into his eyes, I said, "Mr. O'Neill, you have no idea how many times I've seen you sleep on television." And he started to laugh. He said, "Well, if you had to listen to the people I had to listen to, you probably have been asleep too." I said, "Mr. O'Neill, I had a lunch date. They are not showing up, and nothing would give me more pleasure, sir, than to buy your lunch." And he said, "Where are you from?" I get that southern accent. I said, "Well, I'm from Harriman, Tennessee." He said, "Oh, my goodness, you live not too far from my good friend." And I said, "Well, yeah, I guess you're probably talking about a political guy." And he grinned, and I said, "Howard's a fine guy. Have you got any Howard's pictures?" And he said, "Yes, I do." And I said, "Well, then I know he's your friend too." And he said, "That's a gorgeous area. I would love to have lunch with you. You make me laugh." And I said, "Well, I think I'll do that a couple more times." What a great lunch we had that day, me and Tip O'Neill. 3 months later, I was traveling in a rental car and heard that Mr. O'Neill had passed away, and I thought how fortunate and blessed I was to have lunch with him, because there won't be too many more people doing that. But the thing that impressed me, that left an image that I carry with me today, was meeting him and understanding how closely he followed the soft principle of leadership and management. Immediately when we met, he smiled. He was open. He beckoned me in. He leaned forward. When he talked to me, I felt like I was the only person on the planet. But that touch, he never moved. You see, he did not shake my hand. He greeted me. Such a huge difference. In this unit, you will be learning about some of the early principles of management. Remember that managing is some science and some observation. Look around at those who lead and manage you, and I'll bet that you soon will be picking up skills that will make you a great leader as well. I'll see you in Unit 2. Have a blessed day.